Again, my name is Gwen Sorley, and I've been using Play Attention with my clients since 1996. So, over the past 29 years, I've been using customized neurocognitive training plans to improve executive function. And I hope my experiences really will give you a better understanding of the program and the process and how it can be a good fit for you. Now, we will also be touching on our Focus Bootcamp because I know a lot of you are here today because you've been hearing about our Focus Bootcamp. It is designed for adults, but if you have children, make certain that you bring your children along because it is perfect for families to do together. So everyone who starts their Play Attention program by the end of this month will be automatically enrolled in that Focus Bootcamp, and we will go through the different perks that are included in that program. So I know just by looking at the list here today, many of you have attended webinars in the past. And if you've come to our past webinars, you know that we often talk about different areas of executive function. And when we are talking about different areas of executive function, whether it's organization or time management, impulse control, rejection sensitive dysphoria, whatever topic we review, mindfulness, we always provide you with tips and strategies that we hope will help in your day to day. But at some point, we need to get to the root cause. We really want you to have all of those tips and strategies in your toolbox. But again, at some point, we have to develop skills so that all of those tips and strategies work for you. Let me give you an example. I was working with a woman not too long ago, and we were doing a consultation and talking about her specific needs. And in that conversation, she said, everyone keeps telling me just write a to do list. And she said, I can write a to do list. That's not the problem. The problem is I start every morning with a beautiful to do list, but at the end of the day, I don't get anything done. Can anyone relate to that? Have you tried a tip and strategy and it might be the to-do list and it just doesn't seem to work for you? Yeah, a lot of you are raising your hand using the raise your hand icon and chatting yes. And I know that that can be so frustrating. So why is that? Have you ever really thought about why these tips and strategies sometimes don't seem to work for you? That's because if you think about a to-do list, it's not just a to-do list, right? There are a lot of skills you need to have in order to execute that to-do list. So first, when looking at the plan, we have to improve her working memory or memory overall, so that she remembers she has a to-do list. Then we have to work on sustained attention so that when she starts number one, she's able to sustain her attention all the way to completion. We have to work on impulse control so that she's not starting number one and impulsively jumping down to number three. We have to work on filtering distractions so that when you are starting number one, you're not distracted and taken off task because of the environment you're in. We also have to work on mindfulness so that you're able to stay in the present moment and don't let that internal dialogue derail you from the task at hand. So when you think about that to-do list, think about all of those skills you need in order to be successful with that to-do list. And you can also think about it as in the 504 that your child may have. If you have a child and your child has a 504, there are lots of different accommodations. And accommodations are good. We want those accommodations in place. They definitely play a role. However, we have to simultaneously develop skills. Because if you are giving your child, or the school is giving your child longer test time, for example, I know that is one of the common accommodations. And I was a classroom teacher at one point, and I know that that was a common accommodation. And it's good in theory. However, we have to simultaneously develop skills because in order for a longer test time to make sense, we have to help that child improve their sustained attention so that they're able to pay attention to the test, filter all the distractions that are going on around them, control their impulsivity so that they're not just impulsively rushing through the test. They have to be able to have strong working memory so that when they're reading those paragraphs, they can hold that information and give their response. So there are so many skills we need to incorporate into that program, into that plan, so that longer test time doesn't just end up being longer time to daydream. It's actually productive test time. Does that make sense? I hope that does make sense because that's really going to be our focus here. What can we do? How can we get to that root cause to develop skills and be successful? So we specialize in one thing. We help you reach your goals. So go ahead now and type in the chat box. What are your goals? Why are you here? You're all here for a specific reason. So let's share that reason. Are you here or reasons? Are you here because you have a child who's very bright but seems to be struggling academically or socially? Are you an adult and you find that you are very skilled and very capable of the job at hand, but you seem to be missing deadlines or you're only getting work done at the very last minute when you're stressed and anxious? Are you a professional and you're looking at ways to help your clients improve executive function? Go ahead and type in so we can share. So Jennifer says she's here to improve memory and focus. Sarah wants help with time management for herself. Benson wants to stop procrastination. Sorry about that. I just moved my screen here. Um, let's see. Natalie says that she has been diagnosed with ADHD and also suspects that three of her children has ADHD as well. Melissa is a professional. She's looking for different techniques to use with her clients who have ADHD or autism. Angie says, I'm here because I'm so overwhelmed at work. I'm not sure what to do. Time management, procrastination, prioritization ruin my days. Angie, that's really very detailed and so common. I do hope that you realize that that's very common for individuals who are struggling with attention or executive function. And keep in mind too, if you read any of our blogs over the last couple of weeks, the good news is we know through neuroplasticity that the brain is moldable, it's shapeable. And if we provide you with the right tools and the right challenge, you can create these new neural pathways that are required for executive function. Rita says she was newly diagnosed late in life, need help to stop procrastinating. All right, procrastination seems to be a theme here. And we do have a webinar recording on procrastination. So if you'd like me to share that webinar at the end, just let me know and I'll make certain that we follow up in an email and send you that also. Because what's very important to keep in mind with procrastination is procrastination isn't about time management so much as it's more about emotion regulation. Emotion regulation it is a mental process within executive function. And so that's what we need to focus on in your plan. If you mentioned procrastination, it's more about how you feel about the task at hand and your ability to complete that task and how we can work on skills to help in those areas. Okay, so if you want that procrastination webinar, just type in procrastination, or I see Rita said, yes, please, and I'll make certain that you get that. Catherine says she has a 16-year-old son with ADHD and anxiety, and I'm recovering from 30-day stay in hospital 2 years ago that I know affected my executive function. That is a very important point, Catherine. And I am in overwhelm to get back to what is expected of me. How would you recommend we translate that need for skill building along with their accommodations at school? There are a few ways we can do that, Catherine. And you bring up so many points that I want to touch on, but bringing it into the school, if you are what I often do and what our focus coaches, because if you're doing play attention at home, you will be assigned a focus coach. That's one of our coaches here on staff to assist you every step of the way. And one of the things we can do is we can either share the plan. We always like to look at the 504 that's in place so that we can customize the program, your son's program, around that and make certain that we are hitting those skill areas that are needed or required to not promote, but to complement those accommodations and really support those accommodations. So you share your 504. We use that information to customize his plan and then to make certain that the school is on board and is providing your son with the appropriate positive reinforcement when they see these skills being used. We can either just simply share in writing how we have set up the program, what we're working on to complement that 504, or we can attend one of your meetings if that is something you would like and the school would allow us to sit in and cooperate with your teachers. So that's something that we can do along with your son's program. Another important point that Catherine brought up is that her executive function is weak due to a stay in the hospital a couple of years ago. And that's important to remember. I'm going to be talking about ADHD a lot, and we reference ADHD a lot within our program and our website. But keep in mind, there are a lot of factors that contribute or have a negative effect on executive function. It can be a hospital stay. It can be long COVID. We have a lot of people who are recovering from that. We have individuals who have had strokes and lost their abilities due to stroke. We've worked with traumatic brain injury, autism, post-traumatic stress. So there are a lot of factors that can contribute to weak executive function. And we know through neuroplasticity that the brain is moldable, it's shapeable. And if we provide you with the right tools, we can develop those skills despite the cause. Okay, I hope you keep that in mind as well. Um, Ali says she wants to, or Ali says she wants to help her client improve their executive function. Stacy is here to help herself start tasks before the last minute and learn how to plan and prioritize. Good. Sarah, procrastination. Yes, I will send. Many of you are asking that. Catherine says she's so much more patient with her son now that she's experiencing the same. That's a really good point. And, this is great because it is rare we only work with one family member when you're doing the home program. Usually we work with at least one parent, at least one child, if not the entire family. And Catherine, that's really the best way to go through the program, as that shared experience really is so important. Okay. Jennifer feels she has ADHD but hasn't been diagnosed. She's waiting an assessment. And that's okay. You can use play attention whether you're diagnosed, not diagnosed, it really doesn't matter. We can still, through our assessments and our initial intake with you, discover the different cognitive skills that you need to or you want to improve. Okay. Uh, yes, Rita. I do know what can help memory and other than writing down and using alarms. So again, Rita, you're writing down those accommodations or those strategies, right? That writing, just write things down and use alarms, but that's not helping your memory. So we want you to have that strategy of writing down and using alarms, but now we're going to develop skills that can really make certain that when you write things down, you remember you wrote them down. When you use alarms, you don't forget that you set that alarm, and that we can gradually self-regulate and move away from some of those strategies so that you can self-regulate, you can self-monitor, and you don't have to work so hard. Okay. I really appreciate your feedback. You had a lot of great feedback. So she says, I forget where I put notes. Spatial memory is a game we have or an exercise that we have, definitely. Um, so what we teach and how we teach it, that's what makes us unique and effective. We were actually the pioneers in neurocognitive training. It was back in the 1980s when our founder, Peter Freer, started researching different attention training techniques that were being done. And he came across the work that Dr. Pope and Dr. Paulson were doing with NASA. And what he found was that they were monitoring the brain states of their pilots and astronauts. And then they were incorporating that into their simulator training. So let me expand on that a little bit. So that means that if their pilots or astronauts were very attentive, they were monitoring the brain activity. If they were very attentive, then all of the controls within the simulator, the flight simulator, were easy to use. They were automatic. So their job was very simple. However, if they got stressed or anxious or they started getting distracted, they weren't as attentive, then their job became harder. Everything became very sluggish. So they were being taught, they were training how to stay in that peak attentive state while doing their job. And our founder thought, that is brilliant. If I can incorporate, if I can show my clients their attentive state in real time, while practicing skills that we need every day, then I have a comprehensive program. And that is the very foundation of Play Attention. Play Attention is the only program available that integrates feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping to provide you with the most comprehensive approach available. So you see the body wave armband on my client here on the picture, but this is the body wave armband. On the back, there are three sensors. And when I slide this armband on my arm, then those sensors are now monitoring my brain activity that tells us how attentive I am. And then that information is given over to the computer where I'm allowed to control all of the cognitive exercises just with my mind, or more specifically, my attention alone. And I receive constant and immediate feedback as to whether or not I truly am focused and paying attention. And that's a really important first step in the learning process. Because if you think about it, how do you learn best? I'm going to use my poll here and take a quick poll. Let's see if I can pull this up here. So go ahead, and you should see this poll on the screen. If you don't, you can just type in your response in the chat box. How do you or your children or your students, your clients, how do you learn best? Is it through lecture or hands-on experiential learning? How do you learn best? Is it lecture or is it hands-on experiential learning? All right, and I'm going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, excellent. 100% of you said hands-on experiential. But how do we typically try to teach attention? Well, usually through lecture. And Sarah says lectures put me to sleep every time. So so we usually try to teach through lecture, right? We say, pay attention. I need you to pay attention. Sit still, eyes on me, pay attention. How many times have you said that to your partner or your child? Or have you heard it yourself? I just need you to pay attention. And your child or you are thinking, but I am paying attention. And you really think that you are, but you may not have developed what it takes for you personally. So, what we're doing is we're taking that very abstract concept of attention and we're making it concrete and controllable. So, now I'm providing you with an experience. You're going to see your attention, you're going to feel what you're doing, and you're going to be allowed to practice not only just attention, but all of these other cognitive skills that are required for executive function. We know that attention is just the tip of the iceberg. You mentioned it in the chat box earlier where I asked you what your goals were: time management, impulse control, filtering distractions, working memory, social skills. All of these cognitive skills are what we can address within your program, keeping in mind that every single cognitive exercise, no matter what you're working on, whether it's attention stamina or working memory or task completion, you have to be paying attention because that body wave armband is constantly monitoring your attention in real time and giving you that feedback. If you're not paying attention, then the activity will stop. or the character will go in the wrong direction, and you have to focus back in order to continue. And the reason we do this is because we know the very first catalyst necessary for brain change is attention. You can have a great teacher, you can have a fantastic counselor, but if you're having a hard time paying attention to that individual or the process, it's hard to get maximum benefit. So that's why we make certain that no matter what you're working on, you are actively engaged. So that is the very first catalyst necessary for sparking brain change. And we're providing that to you within Play Attention, that real-time feedback regarding your attentive state. We make certain that you are paying attention, you are engaged when you're developing skills. The other catalyst required for brain change is challenge. So you'll notice that when you come into your Play Attention session and you put that body wave armband on, we're monitoring your attention and the bar is set there. If you're able to reach or exceed that level of attention, you're able to activate the exercise. If you're able to maintain that level of attention for a given number of seconds, then in the background, we're going to raise the bar just a little bit. Now you have to be that much more attentive in order to be successful. And the reason we add this challenge feature is because, yes, we all love to be 100% successful. But if you come in and you're not challenged during a learning session, then there's no reason to spark brain change. There's no reason to develop any new neural pathways because you've mastered it. So there has to be challenge in order to spark those new neural pathways that are required. So we incorporate attention, challenge, and then also a deliberate practice model. Because again, we don't want you to just come in and go through the motions. We need to have you come in and actually work on specific goals. So Sheer Genius, our artificial intelligence, will set mini goals for you. Sheer Genius is there as our AI just to constantly customize your program based on your performance. So when Joan logs in, let's say that yesterday she worked on attention stamina. She logs in today and Sheer Genius is going to say, okay, Joan, yesterday you completed attention stamina with 70% attention. Today, let's try 72%. And if you do that, you earn a point. The point goes into your reward system. So we set these mini goals to help you strive for higher levels of achievement. So 3 catalysts required for sparking brain change. And we talk about improving executive function. We're talking about sparking brain change. We need attention, challenge, and deliberate practice. All of those are actually incorporated into Play Attention. Joan says, I was brutalized in elementary school for my attention difference called daydreaming. I was always a creative artist. I value this brain style. How do I balance that with cognitive skills we've named as important? That is a really important point. We're not going to change any of those positives because when we talk about attention differences or ADHD, there are so many positives. Sometimes it's easier to talk about the negatives, but there are so many positives. Individuals with attention difficulties or ADHD are often highly creative, highly intelligent. They think outside the box. So we're not going to change any of those positives. When we're developing cognitive control, we're simply enhancing all of the positives so that you'll still have that creative energy. However, you'll know how to manage things like hyperfocus, right? I bet that you, as an artist, Joan, you can get hyperfocused when you're working on something creative, right? Where it's hard to draw you away from it. That's great. We don't want to change that, but we do want to learn how to manage that so that when you're hyper-focused on that task that you're enjoying, you don't forget to eat. You remember to eat. You remember to have a drink of water. You don't miss other appointments. You don't miss people walking in and trying to have a conversation with you. So, cognitive control is not going to take away any of that creative energy. It's just truly going to enhance all of those other areas. And you say, I miss all kinds of important things, right? So we're not going to change the positives. We're just going to help those other areas become a little bit easier for you. Catherine says, is the AI relatively new to the program? I've been on the email and seminar list for a while, but the constant customization or feedback reinforcement is game changing. I would think, especially when thinking of the investment. Yeah, um, we've been doing the AI for quite a long time now, for about 4 years, but we've refined, as you can imagine, the process. So now, like you're saying, it is so refined that the customization that goes on in the background after you complete every exercise and even during the exercise just really enhances your experience and makes that process so much easier and so much more effective. So that's a really good, important question. Um, Now, we've been doing this integration. As I mentioned, that the integration is really what sets us apart from any other program, that integration of feedback technology with cognitive skill training and behavior shaping. We've been doing this for 31 years, but Tufts University School of Medicine wanted to know, is that integration important? Or can we just simply give you a series of cognitive exercises, or what you hear a lot about as brain games or brain training apps, and get the same results? So they had three different groups of individuals, all identified as ADHD. The first group received play attention, so they had full integration. The second received just cognitive exercises, so traditional brain games that you're probably familiar with or may have tried. And then the third group was their control, and they received no intervention at all. And at the end of the study, the play attention individuals were the only group that showed global improvements in all areas, including academic, social, behavioral, and executive function. They were also the only individuals that, if they started the study and they were on medication, because some of them were on, some of them were not. But if they started the study and they were on medication, and they were in the play attention group, the play attention group had an average decrease in their medication, where the other two groups had an average increase. And that goes back to skill building. You can use play attention whether you're on medication or not on medication. Medication works for many people by controlling symptoms. The difficulty is that medication alone doesn't teach any skills or change behaviors. So we don't want to medicate and fail to educate. We want to use this time to help you develop skills. And that's what play attention can do. It can teach the skills that medication alone cannot teach. So, great studies. They even did a 6 month follow up to make certain that the skills maintained even after they graduated the program, which they did. So, those are all posted on our website. But if you have additional questions regarding the studies, please do ask. So let's go ahead and look at play attention in action. You've been really great, and I know that I've spent a lot of time interacting, but I do think that you've had great comments and questions. So let's now go into the play attention program so you can see what I mean by real-time feedback. So now, before we do this, though, I have to take a reality check and make certain that everyone understands exactly what we're doing here. So before I show you play attention in action, please do answer. What does this body wave armband monitor? Is it A, eye movement, B, breathing, C, brain activity, or D, FM radio? Is it eye movement, breathing, brain activity, or FM radio? What is this body wave armband monitoring? Super important. All right, I'm going to close the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so 86% of you got that question correct. Okay, the correct answer is brain activity. It is not eye movement. Attention does not initiate in the eyes. It helps. It helps you focus in on what someone's saying to you. It helps you stay focused, but it doesn't initiate there. Attention initiates in the brain. So if we're going to show you real-time feedback regarding your actual brain state, your attentive state, we have to monitor brain activity. That's what that body wave armband is doing. So let's go ahead and see it in action. Now know that when I switch my screen here, I can no longer see your comment. Oh, I guess I can here. I can't see your comments. So just make certain that you keep your questions coming and know that I will respond to your questions when I go back to our other presentation, part of the presentation, okay? But please do keep your questions coming. So now this is the main menu screen with all of those different cognitive skills. Keep in mind, you will not need all of them. What is important to remember is that remember what we said, no matter what exercise you're working on, you have to be paying attention. If you're not paying attention, the activity stops, the character goes in the wrong direction. Let's see that work. So I am going to share with you attention stamina. This is teaching you how to direct and sustain your attention to low stimuli at will, much like being able to pay attention to the teacher in the classroom or your colleagues in the workplace. You can choose from different characters, but one is this dolphin. When I click play, remember, I have the body wave armband on. When I click play, the very first thing you're going to see is a transition screen. So you're going to see your game is loading, and that's just helping me transition from our conversation into the actual exercise itself. And then once we get past this transition screen, you're going to see the character at the top of the screen, and my attention meter is white. I'm going to turn down my volume just a little bit so that you can hear me. My character's there. My attention meter is white because I'm not paying attention. I'm distracted. I'm talking to you. So now I'm going to stop our conversation. I'm going to pay attention to my task at hand. Once I'm paying attention, I'm going to swim him all the way down to the bottom of the ocean just with my mind alone, just my attention. Now that's as low as he goes right there. Notice what happens immediately as soon as I'm distracted, he starts to float up because I'm no longer as attentive. And distraction can be a variety of things. It could be daydreaming, it could be anxiety, it could be someone walking into the room and I can't filter that noise. Immediately I get that feedback. Now I know I have to control that behavior, control that daydreaming, focus in. So isn't that amazing? That's what we were talking about, giving you an experience. You now see your attention in real time, and you can learn from that. It's not me saying, pay attention, Joan, pay attention, right? Now I'm allowing you to see it. It's like a piece of exercise equipment for the brain, right? Now, when we can allow you to get real-time feedback regarding your attention, you're then able to develop the self-regulation and self-monitoring you need in order to recognize when you're paying attention, recognize when you're not paying attention, and more importantly, when you're not, you'll know how to correct it because you've had an opportunity to actually practice it. So that is what's game changing, right? That ability to actually see attention in real time. Now you'll notice all of our graphics, right? You noticed our graphics. That's about as exciting as they get. All of our graphics are very low stimuli. They're very simple. And the reason we do this is because we know if we give you something high stimuli or high interest, you can pay attention in those situations. We don't need to teach that. What we need to teach is what's more challenging. And that's how to pay attention to low stimuli, much like the classroom teacher or the workplace, where it cannot possibly compete with that high stimuli. So that's why everything is very simple so that you can learn how to pay attention to that low stimuli at will. Now, notice too, all of your data is stored immediately after. So you see, I worked for 1 minute and 26 seconds. Of that time, I was actually able to pay attention 31% of the time. And my recovery speed was around 15 seconds. That's between the time I lost my attention to the time I regained it. So now sheer genius, remember the AI is going to take that data to not only document progress, to show progress over time, but also to set those mini goals we talked about in our deliberate practice model. And then also track when to advance you. So there is a bronze, silver, and gold medal. When you reach certain benchmarks, we're going to move you from bronze to silver to gold. And when we move you up, we're going to tie in more processes required for executive function, such as processing speed, impulse control, distractors, and mental flexibility. So there are times you're going to have to respond using the mouse or the keyboard to certain stimuli, but you're still driving everything with your attention. Okay. So I hope that made sense, and I'm glad you were able to actually see that in real time. But go ahead, if you do have questions, go ahead and make certain that you do type in the questions so that I'm able to answer those questions as well. And let me make certain I get back to my chat box so I can see. All right. So again, we're going to look at different cognitive skills. You saw there are several there that we can customize into your plan. And so we will take your specific strengths and areas you want to improve when pinpointing those different cognitive skills, with remember the end goal being to improve executive function. Now, I know many of you here are very familiar with that term, executive function. But if you're not as familiar, you can think of it as kind of like the CEO of your brain. It's what allows you to control your attention, your behaviors, your emotions. It allows you to plan and prioritize, organize, avoid procrastination, and remain on task. So it is a set of mental processes that allow you to get things done on a day-to-day basis. And again, executive function tends to be weaker for individuals with attention difficulties. It's important to keep in mind that no one's born with strong executive function, but we all have the potential to develop executive function. And that development starts right after birth and continues through our mid to late 20s. Unfortunately, we expect everyone to have strong executive function by the time they hit middle school, and that development doesn't always naturally happen. There are a lot of factors that can inhibit that development, one of which is ADHD. It can be autism, anxiety. We talked about a lot of those different factors that may not only inhibit that development earlier in life, but also things can happen later in life that can negatively affect executive function. So these are a set of mental processes. However, there are specific foundational cognitive skills we need to improve in order to strengthen executive function. So that's what we're doing in your plan. We're pinpointing the different cognitive skills that are required for executive function, for all of those strategies to help you get things done on a day-to-day basis. That is going to be our focus. So the core modules that are included within Play Attention include attention stamina, your ability to direct and sustain your attention. Visual tracking, that's a great one. If the teacher's ever said, he does great when I stand right next to him, but as soon as I walk away, he's out the window and out the door, and then he has that diffused attention. Task completion, that's the ability to start a task, stay on that task until you complete it. Closed end tasking. So that 15 minutes of homework takes 15 minutes and not 2 or 3 hours. Short-term memory, that's the ability to remember dates, names, facts. See, Rita, I told you that we'd work on memory here. That's just one of 3 memory exercises that we have. Filtering distractions, that's your ability to filter distractions, both auditory and visual. And then transfer and generalization in the form of our academic bridge. So you'll see here that my client is now wearing that body wave armband while doing actual work tasks. He's actually studying a course. And as long as he's paying attention to his work, he's going to hear from the computer, good, great. If you start to drift, you'll hear focus, and then you're not in that state you need to be in order to process and complete. So this is where we ask you to take all of the skills you've learned and apply them to your actual office work, or for your child, it could be their homework. So no more mom and dad standing over them saying, get back on task, get back on task. We are monitoring their attention and giving them that real-time feedback to develop that self-regulation. There are also several different masterclass modules available, including working memory, auditory processing, hand-eye coordination, social skills, spatial memory, mental math, mindfulness, and motor skills, all driven with your attentive state. Now, you may be thinking of which modules you need or which exercises would be most important for your program or your child's program. But we do have an online assessment as well that asks a series of questions. And at the end, you receive a full report that tells you exactly which exercises we recommend for your plan. So if you have not yet taken that assessment, go ahead and type test in the chat box, and I'll make certain you get the link for that test online. And you can see what your program would look like or what your child's program would look like. What do we recommend? If you want a more in-depth look at your attentional control or executive function, we also have a couple of additional assessments available called the Focus and the Brief, which are available as options if you want a more in-depth look. So let's just go over quickly what your play attention program will look like in action. Of course, we ship that body wave armband to you, whether you're a home client or a professional client. You will then meet with your support team. That's both technical support and your personal focus coach. Now, your focus coach is going to take you through our onboarding session. And the onboarding session is going to basically take you through a practice session just to make sure you're real comfortable with everything before you get started. And then once we get you started, and once you're real comfortable with everything, then you're going to start your weekly sessions. And you can then think about your focus coach as kind of your accountability buddy, because at the end of the onboarding session, they're going to say to you, what do you need from us? How are we going to keep you on track? Catherine, how are we going to keep you and your son on track? Is it a Zoom meeting once a week for 15 minutes just to check in? Is it a text message reminder 4 days a week? Is it an email reminder or just chatting online? What's best for you? So you let us know, because that person is going to do weekly check-ins just to see how you're doing and help you stay on track. That's what that person is there for. So not only do you have that AI coach incorporate into your program, but you actually have a live person who's there to assist you every step of the way. And that's for professionals and home clients. Then once you go through that onboarding, what we recommend is that you work at least an hour per week. And that hour can be broken up. It could be two 30-minute sessions, but most of our home clients do four 15-minute sessions. If you're in a professional setting, it might be more realistic to do two 30-minute sessions, whatever works best for you. You're going to start to see good results after about 6 weeks of consistent training. But the research shows in order to gain permanency, because that's what we want to know that not only will you have these skills now, but you'll have them throughout your lifetime. That usually takes about 40 hours total. So if you're working that hour per week, I would plan on about 10 months of consistent training. And around that 10-month period is a really another important time to touch base with your focus coach. We're going to make certain that you're at all the advanced skill options. We're going to make certain that everything's transferred and generalized. If everything looks good, we'll start graduating from the program. If it looks like there's more work to be done, we simply customize the plan and we keep going. So what's important to remember is that no matter what, whether you're working 10 months or 16 months, we continue working as long as necessary. And even once you graduate the program, you own the program. You can continue using the program for peak performance training. So that's really important to remember, because everyone moves through the program differently. So we make certain that we work with you as long as necessary. And once you graduate, you can always touch base with your focus coach if you want to continue on for peak performance training, or there's something that's occurred or you're studying for and you just need that little peak training to get in the zone, that's what we're there for. And again, like we mentioned earlier, it is great to go through this process as a family. It is very rare that we only work with one family member. And remember, all of the documentation will be done so you'll be able to see your progress over time. So now remember, in order to get those results, what we recommend is that you take that onboarding, you meet with your team, you take that onboarding, your practice session, you work for that hour per week. You can break it up. You can do a little bit more than an hour per week. We just caution against burnout. Keep it at a pace that's appropriate for you. You'll start seeing good results after about 6 weeks of consistent training. But the permanency, that end goal to have all of these outcomes, that end goal usually on average takes about 40 hours total. So now, as I mentioned, we do have the home system available and the professional system. The only difference between the two programs is the user license. So the home system comes with a user license for 2 people. That means at any one time can enroll 2 family members into your program, whereas the professional version comes with an unlimited user license. You can enroll as many clients into your program that you need to. Now, we did mention for everyone who starts their program by the end of the month, you will all be enrolled in this Focus Boot Camp. And I think what's really important for you to keep in mind is that we are going to assess your needs pre, mid, and post. You're going to receive, if you're a home client, you're going to have 2 additional user licenses. So that means your system comes with a user license for up to 4 family members at any one time. You'll have that personal customized curriculum, access to our entire masterclass suite. So that means you're not only going to receive those 6 core cognitive skills, but those additional modules that we talked about that are part of our masterclass suite. Usually those are $50 a piece, but with our Focus Bootcamp, you're going to have access to all of those exercises at no additional cost. You'll have that onboarding session, your consistency coach, and weekly focus hacks. Now, the home program is a one-time fee, and remember, you have that program for a lifetime. You are actually purchasing the program. The support is a one-time fee of $18.95. And as we mentioned, you're going to have everything you need, and you will be enrolled in that Focus Boot Camp so that you'll have all of the cognitive skills that we mentioned today. The professional system is a one-time fee of $25.95, and that comes with the unlimited user license. And you will also have access to all of those cognitive exercises. Now, if you have an HSA or an FSA, those typically do cover Play Attention. And we do use Shop Pay. So if you wanted a payment plan option, you'd be able to do payment plans over time if that's your preferred means of purchasing. So those are your different options. And again, for everyone who starts their Play Attention program through the end of this month, you'll have that Focus Bootcamp included with your package. Now, remember, in order to get the Spring Focus Bootcamp, you do have to place your order by the end of this month. There's no special code for that in the eShop. We will simply just apply those when they come in. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope the program was very informative, the webinar. I hope you have a good understanding of how we customize each person's plan, how we can help you every step of the way, that it is comprehensive and it is customized. And there is always going to be a support team to help you along the way, because we know when you have tried other tips and strategies or apps in the past, sometimes the frustrating part is you're on your own. You're trying to navigate the whole process by yourself. And so that part of our program is so important to make certain that you have the support that you need in order to be successful. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon, and we appreciate your time.